important, obviously, very important piece. So I thank Larry for inviting me here. My connection to Larry goes back through Wanda Filer, who I know from the Academy for, I don't know, we sat next to each other in Congress of Delegates for probably way too many years than I'm willing to admit. And it's been a revelation. And I would absolutely, positively tell you, that of all the things I do, this is the most important and most fun meeting that I get to go to this year. No question, hands down. Really mean that. So, I don't know how to get that arrow out of the way, but let's, yeah, thank you. I was a family doc on the front line seeing patients day in and day out for 25 years. The last 10 of those 25 years, I started to get involved in national issues around reforming healthcare that was broken and moving forward with whatever was the hot topic of the day, going from managed care to patient-centered medical home to transforming practices to team-based care to accountable care, value-based care. And then maybe 4 years ago, in the midst of all of that, I got a call one day from one of the principals of this company, Turner Impact Capital, who was referred to me by a friend of a friend because what he said to that person who said, go see Fromer, was, do you know anybody who really understands value-based care? And we started a conversation that day with the people who started Turner Impact Capital years before that about their new initiative to go into healthcare, to have a private market-driven solution to the challenges that plague our country, the biggest ones being education, housing, and healthcare. And that the solution in their minds was government can only do so much, philanthropy can only do so much, but if you really want to scale excellence and fix what's broken, you have to have a market solution. So what does that mean? Is what I'm about to tell you. What is that market solution? The mission of the company I just described. Scale innovative and durable solutions to the toughest societal challenges we have. It's been around, as you see, for 5 years. The very first fund that we went into, as you read through the bullet points there, had to do with education. We started with education for a specific reason. When you do social impact investing, you've got to have partners. It's the theme of the day, right? It takes a village. It takes an organization, a village of organizations. You can't do it yourself. We happen to have a partner you're going to meet in a minute, who you know, most of you know already, who got us going on education first. But when you do social impact investing, what does it mean to everybody in this room to think about social impact investing? Does it mean you're going to tell your brokers that you don't want to own stocks in tobacco companies, in companies that make guns, right? What does it mean is up to each of us. But to Turner Impact Capital, that's what it means to us. It focuses on markets that philanthropy and the government can't meet the challenge to. You've got to have something else going on in the private sector. It means to us that there's a huge mismatch somewhere in the equation that presents opportunities for capital, people who have capital and power and wealth, who care about the communities they're investing in, and will say, in essence, I want to do social impact investing, but I don't want to give away the money. I want a return, but I'm willing to say, if you can show me consistently with key performance measures that is making a difference in the community, I'll accept a lower return than I could get with my capital if I deployed it in luxury condominium, high-rise condominium somewhere. I'll accept less than I could get for that if you can show me it makes a difference. It means when you do social impact investing that you have a different process to underwrite the risk that you're investing in. For instance, in healthcare, and this is one of the things that I spend my days and nights on and lose sleep over, my job on my team in healthcare is to underwrite the financial and clinical risk of what we're going to invest in. So it's not just What's that organization look like from a business perspective? How do they run their business? Are they a good underwriting risk for the finance part? I'll explain the model in a minute. But I also have to figure out what's the clinical model they're going to work under and what do they plan on in the future? Where's their strategic direction? And that is a critical part for our investment committee to say yay or nay on, are we going to do an investment in the project? Social impact investing is what that means. That's what that means to us. The bottom check mark there, that the returns are not connected to broad market indices, is absolutely critical for everybody to understand. That means when you do social impact investing our way, when we have a yes on a project, it means that the demand for the services provided by what we're investing in, what we build, the infrastructure we put together, will not go down the tubes if the New York Stock Exchange goes down the tubes. They are disconnected because it's a vital societal challenge that we're solving, and the demand will be just as high whether or not the New York Stock Exchange does great one year or not. That's a really critical point. We look at the triple bottom line: success financially, opportunities for communities, and we have the environmental piece included. We have 2 leads professionals on my team. They get an absolute veto vote if what we're going to do is not environmentally friendly. That's why we do things like you heard a few minutes ago. We take old buildings that are deserted and we convert them into beautiful healthcare centers. You're going to see one in a minute. Right? We do a lot of adaptive reuse. But even on the ground up, when we build new facilities, LEED certified excellence in those facilities. Our approach ended up meaning that we're going to have 3 funds. My fund, the healthcare fund, is the newest. The first fund we launched is the charter school fund. So we have education, housing, and healthcare. The first fund, education, we now have built 108 charter public schools across the country. 56,000 students, every one of them in underserved communities. That was 5 years ago. The second fund, workforce housing, we have 10,000 units across the country in older garden apartment type 2- and 3-story community complexes with 500 units average in each one. And the healthcare fund, we have been up and running. We stopped our money raise. We finished about 4 months ago, but we started to build during the money raise, which took about a year and a half. And we have 15 investments already open. We have 4 under construction and a big pipeline behind that I'm going to show you about. So let's talk about the schools first. They all connect, so you'll see how this comes together. Anybody recognize the guy giving the hug?
Yeah.
It's Andre Agassi, tennis player. Why is he our partner in the Charter School Facilities Funds? Anybody read his book, Open? You know why he's a partner. Passionate about education. And you read the book, it is the best sports book I've ever read because it's not about sports. You think it's about sports. When you get to the end of the book, it is not about sports. It's about life. It's about everything we're going to talk about here today and have talked about. He is driven to get education, quality education to students, to kids in cities across the country. He started with a philanthropy model by himself. It took him 5 years to build his first school in Las Vegas. That's where he grew up. All philanthropy, $250 million. Beautiful campus, great results, kids going on to college, what they do with their careers after that now. It's been open long enough to see that they go back into the communities they've come from. Wonderful graduation rates, everything's great. But our founder, Bobby Turner, said to Andre one day, Andre, you really want to bring this to other kids around the country and scale it, you're not going to be able to do it with philanthropy. They partnered, formed this fund, went out and raised money from investors, and then we have these results. Here's the challenge we were addressing. Everybody knows what the challenge is. America spends a lot of money on everything. We spend a lot of money on education like we do on healthcare, and we get mediocre to poor results. We don't want to go build a charter school where it's not needed, so we find on our heat map communities where they either don't have a district school or they have no school. They have no school or they don't have a high-performing district school. We go in there and we put them in underserved communities. We don't want to do it with a partner who delivers charter school education, charter school operators around the country who are average. We find the best of the best in a quarterly report to every investor, and we make available key performance indicators on how they're doing, making sure they're not just average. What you see there is a litany of what's wrong with our public school education in the country. The opportunity for us was the waiting list and the demand for charter schools. Communities where a good charter school would open, when people would have to get on a waiting list and use a lottery system because there weren't enough seats, or there wasn't a school at all in communities that desperately needed them. The result? We have to update it. It grows so quickly, we have to keep updating this. This is old news, but basically we're at 108 schools now. We just opened our newest one in the South Bronx in New York, literally blocks away from where I was born and grew up, in a bad part of the South Bronx known as Fort Apache, right? Grand opening the other day. Just thriving business here of taking investors' money, investing it wisely, underwriting the risk, working with charter school operators to open up all these schools. If we were a school district with our 56,000 seats now, we would be the 26th largest school district in the United States if we were a city. And we just keep growing. The demand is insatiable, which is a great thing. We have to raise the money, we can do that, and then we have 200 people in our company, many of whom are dedicated to this fund, who literally build the schools. We find the property, we build the school, we find a partner to operate it with, we provide the capital for all that, in return for a long-term lease. That's the model. Incredibly simple. But there's a lot of nuance underneath that incredibly simple concept. The same concept occurs with our other funds. So housing. That's Eva Longoria in the lower right. She's our partner in the housing fund. Again, passionately dedicated to housing affordability. She happened to come from San Antonio, where we do have properties, but we have them all across the Smile part of the United States. You go from the eastern seaboard down through the mid-Atlantic, around the south, through Texas, and out into the southwest, and then up the Pacific coast. So that's where the properties are. We now have, to update this one, 10,000 housing units across the country. You see the challenge there. Workforce housing, affordable workforce housing. You've heard this today already. This morning was a great session. I will be talking to the folks who presented this morning, comparing models and how we can complement each other. But workforce housing is harder and harder to find. Affordable workforce housing is disappearing in the United States. So what we do is we find it where it exists still, we buy the property, we fix it, right? We get it up to speed in terms of the physical plant, but we don't raise rent. The challenge you see there, how do we overcome that, is to take this opportunity where there's so much demand and people who can't find affordable housing are spending way too much of their rent, of their money on rent, right? We fix up the physical plant, and the results, the impact, we now have 8,000 units. We're going to have 10,000 by the end of this calendar year as we keep growing. We just purchased 2 more properties last week. What we do is we take the investors' money, the fund, we find properties, naturally occurring workforce housing properties, bigger, like I said, 2- and 3-story garden apartment complexes, average around 500 units. We fix up the physical plant, and what makes the difference? How can we keep the rent where it is, not raise the rent, and make ends meet in a business that is essentially a private enterprise, and then make it sustainable, successful, and keep growing? The answer is in front of you. It's in that picture in the middle, picture on the left. What is it? We put enrichment centers in the middle of each of those complexes. Think of a community enrichment center in which we offer free programming to the residents. if they live there, they get free programming and education, safety, that's the police picture, and healthcare. What does that mean? Well, we take about 10% of the units in any complex, we take them offline, don't rent them, and make them available to teachers who often teach in the charter public schools that we have nearby. We make them available to law enforcement officers who live on the property with their families. We make them available to healthcare professionals who live in the property. And in exchange for them volunteering their time to do the work in the enrichment centers, the programming that we create in those centers, they staff it and they get either free rent or reduced rent, depending on the number of hours they donate. So it all works. It all goes back together. Last year we gave 34,000 hours of enrichment programming in the properties that we had owned. This year it's going to probably top out at the end of the year at 50,000 hours. What are those things? The police and safety officers who live in the building, they teach classes on safety, right? They help with community watch formation programs. They help with making sure the perimeter is safe, because a lot of these are in very tough neighborhoods. The teachers do after-school tutoring for the students who need it. They do evening adult education classes. They do health literacy teaching, financial literacy teaching. The health folks who live in the properties, what they offer are screening clinics for diabetes and blood pressure, hypertension, weekend health fairs. They offer immunization clinics. It's not a full-range clinic yet, although after what I heard today, we really ought to start thinking about how we can do that and put a clinic right there on the property. But you get the idea of how this all fits together, how they all three fronts synergize. What that leads to is a theme that runs through this about how is all this successful financially. In the real estate fund, what happens is we don't raise the rent because what happens is we lower the cost of being a landlord. What is the number one cost for a landlord in multifamily housing? Turnover. So within a year, because of the enrichment programming and other ways we enhance the experience and totally change the landlord-tenant relationship for the better, we double and triple and sometimes quadruple the average landlord tenancy, drastically lowering the rent, drastically lowering the expenses and keeping the rent stable, keeping it affordable. That's the model. Okay? Healthcare. Newest fund, as I said, we started to raise money about, maybe a year and a half, year and 3/4 ago. 4 months previously to this, we closed out the fund. We have enough assets to build $400 million worth of healthcare infrastructure facilities. The challenge is well known to everybody in this room. We don't have a healthcare system, we have a sick care system. It's not dominated by primary care. I'm proud to tell you that every single investment we make and facility we build is primary care. Community-facing primary care. That's what we do. And I'm really happy that it's not that I'm just so happy. I helped make sure that was what we were going to do as I was working with the folks here from a few years back before the fund launched. You know the results that are listed up there. You know what's going on with our statistics on how we deliver care in our country. We spend the most in the world, 2 to 1 to anybody per citizen, and we get mediocre to less than mediocre results. We have to fix it. Is sucking everything out of our economy, as was already pointed out. How do we do that? What's the opportunity? To move into a primary care-driven, prevention-focused healthcare system, we believe, and there's tremendous data to show to prove this, that you have a insatiable need and opportunity, therefore, to build infrastructure for places for that to happen. You can't just go into a community that's underserved and say, we're going to move primary care in, and we're going to make it robust, and we're going to make sure the reimbursement for the robust, great services they provide is going to be terrific, but they got to have a place to do it. You literally need bricks and mortar. So we build infrastructure to do that. The photo on the right was our first center, happened to be in South St. Petersburg, Florida. That building you're looking at, which is now a really nice outpatient community clinic, primarily serving frail seniors, that building was a closed down, shuttered, graffiti-riddled, broken glass drugstore that had been closed 3 years prior to when we bought the property. It had been a Walgreens, I think. On the day of the grand opening, when we cut the ribbon, I literally was standing there next to the U.S. congressman representing that district, and he had tears in his eyes. And I turned to him and I said, "Are you all right? What's wrong?" And he said, "I'm crying because I grew up in this neighborhood. And in this neighborhood, no one has invested a dollar in the last 25 years. You're the first ones to do that." And he was overwhelmed. It was amazing to him. Since that first one, we built 5 more in that area of Florida, and they're all thriving, they're all growing. That particular one actually, in the Medicare Advantage world of our healthcare system, is the fastest growing Medicare Advantage site, clinical delivery site in the country by organic growth. So, very proud of that. You see the opportunity, here's the impact. We've opened 15 centers. Those 15 centers are serving 44,000 patients. It's a combination of Medicare Advantage centers, very qualified health center community clinics, PACE centers. How many people are familiar with the PACE program? It's got to be, we have to double and quadruple what's going on in PACE. It's a phenomenal model, primary care driven, wonderful, comprehensive coverage and services provided by primary PACE center operator organizations, many of them in former churches. I was very keen to watch and listen to the previous presentation on church-based care. We have a number of facilities where they're going to be in former churches, and the churches in those underserved communities, the last one being, we toured one in New Orleans a few weeks ago, which was in one of the wards that had gotten wrecked by Hurricane Katrina. And this church had closed down, had seen hard times, shuttered, a terrible situation for the community. A PACE operator went in there, PACE program operator, fixed it up, beautiful property now. They took the main church part of the building and turned that into what's called the Great Room for the PACE Center. A PACE Center, if you don't know it, is a combination adult daycare center and medical clinic in the same building, co-location with, because it makes sense for them because they get a capitation payment from the federal and state government for most of their patients per member per month. It makes sense for them to put in dental, so they have a full array of dental services, eye care services, in addition to the primary care medical clinic that serves the PACE patients, behavioral health on site, robust community service agency access on site. Just a really amazing model. Saves the taxpayers money, keeps frail seniors in the community, in their homes, so they don't have to go into a nursing home. It's just a win-win-win. We've got to grow it, we've got to market scale it. But that's one of the types of assets that we build. We also do medical respite transitional care housing. How much time do I have? Am I good? So, yes, that's right. That's the Chenman facility. We'll talk about it later. The primary care organization that operates those facilities that we build in that part of Florida is called Chenman. Amazing organization doing amazing work with frail seniors in very tough communities. The risk assessment statistics for their population that they tear on purpose. They seek to see patients, the toughest patients. Their risk scores are way higher than the rest of the country in terms of the risk of their population. And they do a great job keeping them healthy, keeping them well, keeping them stable out of the hospital, out of the emergency rooms. Just offering great access. So where we were here is that the medical respite transitional care housing, homeless population, it's obviously something really tough to tackle. It's been an intractable challenge. But here's where the opportunity is. And this is the way you have to start thinking about these things if you combine the pieces that we put together in this puzzle. Every hospital in America has the same problem. And it is this. Due to law, due to ethics, due to the population of patients they take care of, they have every single day they find themselves with beds being filled by patients, varies by hospital and community, but they have a significant number of their beds where patients are stuck. They don't need to be in the hospital any longer for medical reasons, but because they're not allowed to, or it's unethical to, they can't put them out on the street. They're homeless. They have no roof over their head. That prevents people who need that hospital bed from getting into it frequently, but even if that's not the case, they don't belong in the hospital. They need to finish a treatment maybe of IV antibiotics, wound care, whatever it is, but not hospital bed, acute med-surg bed, right? What do? Well, you probably have seen in the lay media and in the medical literature, they're coming up with creative solutions to combine housing with what they do for the community in terms of medical care. So we have put together, to solve this problem, we have put together a model where you combine an infrastructure, a dormitory kind of building where you put, let's say, 50 beds. You have a medical clinic in the same facility. You have behavioral health. You have co-located in the building many of the community service agencies that see to it that while the homeless are there to finish that medical treatment in a non-hospital setting, they get the medical outpatient care they need, they get the behavioral health support they need, but also they get permanent placement. The best ones that we work with get permanent placement for these patients in greater than 90% of the time with these patients. It's an amazing transformation of people's lives. But that's a key part of it. How do you put that all together? How do you fund it? Who pays for it? Every one of those hospitals for which you solve that problem with that bed that's got somebody stuck in it who doesn't need to be there, they are losing money based on the fixed overhead of a hospital structure on a med-surg bed. It's costing them about $1,500 a day to just give that patient 3 square meals and do, whatever the piece is that they're doing in terms of IV antibiotics or in terms of wound care. So you go to the hospital and you say, we need you as a partner here. You go to a federally qualified health center community clinic that's near where you want to put this dormitory, this medical respite center, and you say to them, we need a clinic operator. And when you put all those pieces together, you have then, generally they run about 50 beds. You have a solution for the hospital in which the hospital would be very happy to pay a third, is what it turns out to be, of what it's costing them to keep the patient in the hospital in the first place, to whoever's operating the respite center, right? We build it, we don't operate it. We build it and then somebody leases it from us, and we get rent to pay back the investment. So whoever's running the building is a high-quality, federally qualified healthcare center, taking care of the patients, getting reimbursement for seeing those patients while they're there. Okay? There's a prospective payment system now in the Medicaid system due to Obamacare. So every time they touch the patient, they not only get the horribly low state Medicaid fee-for-service rate that we all know about, they either get the managed care rate or they get that low fee-for-service rate, plus they get the prospective PPS payment every time they touch the patient. Again, that allows this setting to be a solution where the resource to pay for it comes from what's broken now. That's the opportunity. It doesn't cost anybody more, it costs everybody involved less to get care for these patients, change their life. One of the best in the country, we modeled this whole thing after one of the best in the country in Phoenix, and it's beautiful to go see this, because not only are all the services that I mentioned are provided, in the same building, what they've done is literally put inventory